Girl marries a strange man for a promise, married a strange man, but the man kicked her out the same day, but the girl sneaks back in, but the man's mother burned her luggage. All her luggage was burned. The girl only managed to get one photo back despite the danger. It was a portrait of her mother. The girl was devastated, but she couldn't leave, because it was a promise she had made to one person. The girl's name was Annie. She had grown up in a single-parent home. Her mother had left her not long ago. Now Annie is left alone in the countryside, until the day a wealthy uncle found her. He wanted Annie to marry his son, Al, and declined, because she didn't want to get married in the first place, not to mention someone she'd never met. But her uncle said he had cancer. Time was running out. His only wish was to find a good wife for his son, and Annie was the perfect choice. Annie knew that her uncle's time was running out. She was very sad, because her uncle had taken great care of their family. You could say he was very kind to them, in order not to upset her uncle, and to repay that kindness. Good Annie took it as a promise. She vowed in her heart that she would be a good wife, but the first day she entered the house, she was disliked by her mother-in-law. She didn't like her mother-in-law at all. This daughter-in-law from the countryside, her ideal daughter-in-law, was a rich girl who had a crush on Al, because the rich girl's family is very powerful in the local community is very powerful. The old woman promised the rich girl that she would be her daughter-in-law, and that she would be in a position so that she could move up the ladder of the rich. The old woman outwardly obeys her husband's wishes, but behind her back, she's doing everything she can to get rid of Anne. First, she ordered the maids to burn the luggage Annie brought with her. Then she makes Annie work with the servants. Even the maids despise Anne from the countryside. The maid deliberately threw a plate at Annie. The plate fell to the ground and shattered. The old lady arrived at the sound of her voice. The maid immediately put the blame on Annie. The old lady scolded Annie. "Do you know how much this plate is worth? You'll never be able to afford this plate in your lifetime." Annie was so upset that she couldn't speak. The old lady told Annie to get rid of the pieces. The family was going to have guests soon. Annie squatted down and picked up the pieces in silence. Her mother-in-law was still urging her on. In her haste, Annie cut her hand. Just then her fiancé came back. Al saw this and helped Annie to treat the wound. He didn't know yet that this poor girl was his wife. And when he learned that his father was going to marry him, Al had a big fight with his father. He told his father that he did not want to get married, and he would never marry someone he didn't know. But his father said, "I promise you'll fall in love sooner or later. You won't learn to grow up until you have a family." Unhappy, he finds Annie again. He asked her why she wanted to marry him. It seemed to him that Annie was interested in the family's money. Of course Al couldn't let such a scheming girl get away with it, so he went behind his father's back. He drove her away, and then he gave her a lot of money. He sent Annie back to her home in the country. Annie had never been so humiliated, but to live up to her promise to her uncle, she chose to suffer in silence. When Al returned home satisfied, the money had been returned intact. Al rushed to look out of the window. This woman had really come back. Al suddenly couldn't understand this woman. She didn't want the money. Then why did she willingly marry herself after only one meeting? Why was she willing to marry her? That day Al suddenly approached his father. He said he wanted to marry Anne. His father thought the rebellious son had finally come to his senses. He said that you would marry tomorrow, but little did he know that all this was. It was all Al's plan. She wanted to make Annie to leave the family willingly. On the other hand, when the rich girl heard the news, the first thing she did was to find the old woman, asking her what was going on. "You promised to make me your daughter-in-law." The old woman didn't dare to offend the rich girl. She had to stabilize her first. The old woman promised the rich girl that she would make sure that Annie back from whence she came, and so the wedding began with each of them in mind. At the wedding the priest asked Al, "Will you take in to be your wife?" The old woman shook her head in the hope that her son would refuse. The rich girl was trembling, waiting for Al to say no, but Lovely said firmly, "I do." Hearing Al's answer, the old woman and the rich girl's hearts were instantly broken. When it was Anne's turn, she hesitated for a long time, but in the end she chose to keep her promise, saying "I do." The paralyzed sister and the rich man were delighted. They gave their sincere blessing to the couple after the wedding, and greeted the old woman, only to be greeted by the old woman's threats.
Te lo advertí, jovencita. Lo que pase en adelante es tu responsabilidad. Bienvenida al infierno.